This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
What we're learning, Rabbi Isai, is a tremendous yesod, a tremendous principle. And that is, Sukkos is not just a celebration of a miracle, it's a celebration of the return of the Ananei HaKavod, a return to the Chiba HaRishayna. Rabbeinu Yonah writes in the Shari Tshuva that a Baal Tshuva, which we should all consider ourselves under that category, the Baal Tshuva, not only should they daven to God, that God should erase his sins completely, but look what he writes. He writes beautiful words. V'oid yispalo Baal Tshuva l'Hashem. The Baal Tshuva should also daven to God. Limchais ka'av pishav. To erase like a cloud his rebellious acts. V'cha'anon chatoisav. And like a cloud his sins. But more than that, the sheyach b'yitzvah, that God should desire him again. V'yirtzehu. You see that word? Ritzoy. That God should accept him again, should find favor with him, v'yei asar lai, and be entreated to him, kasher lo hayachata, as if he didn't sin. Ke'inyan shekasa b'divrei Eliyahu, abal tshuva achrei yisurim, like Elihu writes about the Baal Tshuva after God afflicts him, yetar el Eloka v'yirtzehu, he will be entreated to God and he will find favor again with this person. Now look what he writes: Ki yitachein liyais ha'avoin nislach. It is possible for a sin to be forgiven. B'nifte ben ha'yisurin, and this person is now redeemed from travails. God will not punish him. Umi kol gezerah, and from any decree. But ve'ein la'Hashem chayfetz b'y. God has no interest in him. Like Hashem said after the Chet HaEgel, no problem, but hinei anochi sholeach malach. Umin chala yirtzeh miyadeh. God is not desiring his offerings. But that's not good enough for the tzaddikim. Tzaddikim just don't want, God forgive me. I don't want to be punished. That's not what tzaddikim want. Now look what he writes. V'tavas ha-tzaddikim. The desire of tzaddikim. Min ha-hatzlachos. From among the greatest forms of success. Lehafek ratzai me'ashem. To gain God's desire. V'sheyach b'yitzvahem. And that God should want them. This is from the greatest successes of a tzaddik. Not that God should forgive them. That God should have a desire for them again. God should want to have a relationship with them. And that is why, Rabbi Isai, of all the Yamim Tovim, which Yom Tif is considered Zaman Simchaseinu? Sukkos. Why? What? Because we had a miracle? We had greater miracles by Mitzrayim. It's nothing to do with a miracle. It's because we gained the greatest success in life. And what is that? That after sin, God should continue to desire them. That is the entire progression. Right? People want to know, what's the connection between Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkos? It's like random. First we have a day of judgment, then we have a day of atonement, and then we just celebrate. No. It's a step-by-step progression. Yom Kippur, we gain atonement. But that is not what we want. We're not stopping there. That doesn't satisfy us. We want Ritzui. We want Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. V'ratzisa banu, says the Gra, Sukkos. Ata v'chartanu mikol ha'amim, al hafta isanu, v'ratzisa banu. That is why we celebrate Sukkot specifically on this date of the year. Because for the tzaddikim, the greatest joy in life, the greatest happiness is to be desired again. That's what he writes a couple lines down. He says, V'nemar, Hashem Elokim Tzivakos Hashivenu Hoyer Panecha, shine your face on us. V'amru Chazal, Ein lanu ela ha'eras panecha. All we want, God, is for you to shine your face on us. By the way, that is why the Ananei HaKavod provided great illumination for Klal Yisrael. Right? Remember, we had a Shiur on Parsha Chukas. The Ananei HaKavod actually created great light. They were able to see through barrels. It was very strong light, we learned. And Rabbi Isai, the Vilna Gaon tells us that when we say Ki ayin ba'ayin yiru b'shuv Hashem tzion, that we will see with our eyes God's return to Eretz Yisrael, what does that mean? We're going to see God? I thought Ki la yirani ha'adam b'chai. It's the return of the Ananei HaKavod. And that's what we said it means. Oyer chadash al tzion ta'ir. The great light that we're asking God to illuminate us with is the light of the return.
So, Rabbi, in the Shemon Esrei, when we say for Shmini Atzeres, we also call it Zaman Chasenu. Yet we know it's a separate yontif. So why is that also?
Oh, very good. So maybe this year we'll be able to add. I have something very good for that. Okay?
It's the only mitzvah you have on Shmini Atzeres
It's Simcha.
to be simple.
But we'll try to explain, according to what we're saying, that the whole season of Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkos is a progression of achieving greater closeness to Hashem after the Chet HaEgal. Perhaps we could explain the inyan of Shmini Atzeres. He says, look, Al Kain Tira B'Tfilas David Be'is HaTshuva. We find when David was praying for Tshuva, Acharei Sha'amar, after he said, Herev Kabaseni Me'avoini, wash me well from my sin, Mechatasi Tareni, and purify me from my chet. Hispalel Oid Al Haratzin. He didn't stop there. After David said, God, don't punish me, forgive my sin, David added another tefillah. You know what that tefillah was? Al tashlicheni milfanecha. You know what the tefillah of al tashlicheni is? I understand, God, you're not going to punish me, but don't throw me away. I want to enjoy that relationship with you. Okay. Says the Meshech Chachma, an incredible thing. And it comes out that originally the Yom Tif of Sukkos had nothing to do with Ananei HaKavod. Because true, when God originally gave us Sukkos, we had Ananei HaKavod, but they never went away to return. So at first, guess what the Yom Tov of Sukkos was? Chag HaAsif. It was an agricultural holiday. If you look in Parshas Mishpatim, Chag HaAsif. If you look in Parshas Kisisa, Chag HaAsif. I made a mistake before. The Torah calls Sukkos, Chag HaSukkos Ta'aseh L'cha, is not in Emor, it's in Parshas Re'eh. In Re'eh, Tez Zayin Yod Gimel. Look in the Meshech Chachma number 15. V'chein b'chisisa, it doesn't say Chag HaSukkos. Lo chein b'dvarim, but not in Re'eh, Ksiv Chag HaSukkos. Why? Hatam al pi divrei hagra. We can understand this based on the Gra. Kishanitein luchais hashniyim. That when God gave us the second luchais on Yom Kippur, Moshe Yarim in Ahar v'chazar Ananei HaKavod, then we were commanded on Sukkos. So at first in Kisisa and in Mishpatim, the Yom Tif of Sukkos is called what? Chag HaAsif. It's only after the return of the Ananei HaKavod, the Yom Tif of Sukkos metamorphosized into Chag HaSukkos.
What would we say for Pesach that's called Chag HaAviv, and then becomes Zaman Teres?
But Pesach, already from the beginning, there was a mitzvah to eat matzah.
So why is it called Chag HaAviv? Why don't we call it Zaman Teres?
It's not only called Chag HaAviv. It's also Chag HaPesach.
Did it morph into Zaman Teresenu?
No, Chag HaPesach, from the very beginning, it was Pesach. There was no transformation in the Yom Tov of Pesach. But here, where the element of Sukkah is connected to the return of Ananei HaKavod, so it's sort of metamorphosized. Rabbi, I heard this past Monday, a week and a half ago, from Rabbi Yonasan Sachs, he added another very interesting point, and that is, we find in the Torah, there are 3 mitzvos that the Torah gives us a specific reason for, where it says, Lama'an, right? It says by Tefillin, the purpose of Tefillin is Lama'an, Tia Torah Es Hashem B'ficha, Kiviyar Chazacha, Hoitziacha Hashem Es Mesomei Es Hashem. We wear Tefillin, why? To remember God took us out of Mitzrayim. By the way, L'chatchila, when you put on your Tefillin, you should think that you're putting on Tefillin Zecher L'Yitzias Mitzrayim, and according to the Bach, if you don't think that, you're not Yotzei the mitzvah of Tefillin. Now we don't necessarily paskin like the Bach, but L'chatchila, when you put on Tefillin, you should think it's Zecher L'Yitzias Mitzrayim. The second mitzvah is tzitzis. Leman tizkaru. The purpose of tzitzis is you wear tzitzis to remind you of all the 613 mitzvahs. And the third mitzvah is sukkah. So just think about it. There are 3 mitzvahs in the Torah where they're so fundamental. It's not enough to do the mitzvah. You actually have to understand what it's supposed to teach you. So, tzitzis I can understand. That's pretty fundamental. The purpose of tzitzis is to remind you to keep the mitzvahs. I think keeping mitzvahs is a fundamental aspect of Judaism. Tefillin I understand. You wear tefillin to remind us of Yitzias Mitzrayim. That is the foundation of Judaism. That God demonstrated to the world that He created, controls, and knows what's going on in the world, and He loves Klal Yisrael. But then we have this mitzvah out of the blue to remind ourselves that we had clouds of glory. I mean,
No,
that's so
before we return, and we have a special relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's what we have to remember.
So just the simple meaning of Sukkos, right? The simply, just that this is the one mitzvah in the Torah that you have to remember a minor event that we had clouds of glory, and it's such an important fundamental idea that it's the only mitzvah basically that reminds us of one specific event. But according to what we're saying, it's teaching us a fundamental lesson, and that is that after a Jew sins, he could not only gain slicha mechila, but he could reconnect with the Rebbeinu Shalom the same way that he was before.
But that can happen any time of the year, no?
Yeah, but it did happen historically on this date. Now, there's a sefer called Ben Le'ashri. The Ben Le'ashri was written by a great makubal by the name of Rabbi Yitzchak Huberman. Rabbi Yitzchak Huberman was an ani ve'evyain. He lived in the city of Ranana, and if you go to Har Menuchos today, you'll see signs, Hatzadik me Ranana. I believe the Imrei Emes would study his ways. He mamish lived as an ani ve'evyain. My grandfather wrote to him very, very often, and he was my great-grandfather's chavrusa in Yeshiva Chachmei Lublin.
In the Ranana that exists today, or this was a Ranana somewhere in Europe?
No, Ranana in Israel.
I didn't know that Yishuv, the same Ranana that exists today, because I thought Yishuv, I thought was a relatively modern Yishuv.
I don't think he was there when it was modern. I think he lived in a hut. He,
I would understand.
Mamish,
I didn't know Ranana.
If I would like to show you some of these letters where he wrote, and then if he had any extra millimeters, he couldn't afford extra paper, so he made sure to fill it up. I think in one letter he said he needed money for a talis katan. He's a very big makubal. He wrote the Svarim Ben La'ashri. So in the Ben La'ashri, Rabbi Yitzchak Huberman, Seichet Tzaddik Levracha, writes that when Klal Yisrael went out of Mitzrayim, the Anani HaKavod, like the Gra says, they left, they came back, and therefore chronologically, even though we asked, the Medrash should mention Anani HaKavod first, but the Medrash listed last because the greatness of Anani HaKavod was not their existence, but it was their return. Here's the problem. Beautiful Shiur. You go to any good Maggid Shiur, and he's going to tell you a Shiur on Sukkos. This is what they're saying. This is the classic. This is my favorite Shiur on Sukkos. I've heard this many, many times. You probably did also. The only thing is, it's wrong. Because the Navi in Nehemiah, by the way, there's a very good sefer out there. It's called Sefer Nehemiah. It says Beferish, the Anani HaKavod never left. You can't get more explicit than a pasuk in Nevi'im, in Eksuvim, that God did not remove the Anani HaKavod for 40 years in the Midbar. That's a major problem with what we're saying. Look in the pasuk, look at number 17. We say, V'ata
doesn't mean kind of return. I mean, if you...
Hashafti?
Sure. I mean, the shoresh is that I return to Bnei Yisrael.
Hashafti literally means...
Didn't we discuss that tangentially when we had the Shiur about the Anani HaKavod? That even if we say that the Anani HaKavod didn't leave, maybe the level of protection, the level of Shekhinah was not the same as when it came back to its full glory.
Possibly.
We touched on that.
Possibly. Take a look at this. In Sefer Nehemiah we find the pasuk says, "V'ata b'rachamecha harabim." God, in your abundant mercy, "Layazav tam b'midbar." You did not forsake Klal Yisrael in the midbar. Es amud ha'anon lo'isar me'aleim b'yoymam lahan chaysam ha'adarach. You did not remove the cloud, the pillar of cloud, in the day to guide them. V'es amud ha'esh b'layla l'hoyer lahem. You did not remove the pillar of fire to illuminate for them the saderach asher yelchu b'ay. So this pasuk seems to be saying very clearly, by the way, I want to tell you something very interesting. This pasuk almost made it into davening. You know what pasuk comes before this? Atahu Hashem Elokim Asher Bacharta B'Avram V'Hoitzeis Meir Kazim V'Samta Shemay Avraham U'Matzasa Savavay Neman Lefanecha V'Ata B'Rachamecha Harabim Le'Yazavtem B'Midbar. That's in the psukim that follow. It almost made it. It almost made it.
Who stopped it?
The psukim b'hayom b'katuf neim k'mayevim b'mayim azim is pasuk yud aleph. Pasuk yud tes is v'yata b'rachamecha rabin. In any event,
in the intervening days between when Moshe went up to Shemayim the first time and he came back, and then, or at least at the very end, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't leave the Bnei Yisrael when he saw what they did with the Egel.
that's what the pasuk says.
He wants to destroy the people and make Moshe into another nation. That's not considered leaving.
He wants to, but look, we could, got black and white over here. They never left. What are you supposed to do with that? So Rabbi say, there's a famous question Tosfos asked him Sachem, and that is, who knows the answer? Are women chayiv to sit in the sukkah?
No.
No, why not? Aye. Are women chayiv to hear Megillas Esther? So why don't we say the same thing? So why don't we say the same thing? They're mechayiv to sit in the sukkah because they were in the Ananei HaKavod. So Tosfos is forced to say, looking at it in Tosfos Sachem, v'ha damrin and the B'turais misukah. This that we say that they're pater from sukkah. Af agav da'afin hoyavoy sehanes kiba sukkah shafti. Tosfos has to say afin hoyavoy sehanes only helps by mitzvahs d'Rabbanan, not by mitzvahs d'Oraisa. Sukkah is a mitzvah d'Oraisa, and therefore we don't apply the rule of afhin hayu ba'isei hanes. However,
why?
Because
you would think more so than if they
afhin hayu ba'isei hanes is a logic. Right? You can't apply logic to the Torah. We actually once explained from Rav Gifter.
Where does it say in the Torah, mitzvah says Shemaim Brahma, that Nashim al Pater? We learn it out from a drush.
No, we learn it from Sukkim, from Yud Gimel Midah Shatar Nedrash. This is a logic.
How do we learn that
if you're
having lower Yubanesis doesn't apply to a Doraisa?
Do you remember Rav Gifter, we had a Shiur Parshas in Shemais, that what came first, right? The mitzvah or the event? So we always think first came the miracle and then we commemorate it. But actually first came the mitzvah and then came the event. In other words, what came first? God putting us in Ananei HaKavod and then we commemorate it by sitting in the sukkah, or the mitzvah of sukkah, and then because of that God had to...
You can say that.
Okay, we'll leave that for a different time. But we could answer, based on what we're saying, that this Tosfos very simply. Tosfos wants to know why women are not mechuyev in sukkah. Well, wait a second. Everybody knows the Torah tells us that we have 3 Yomim Tovim. Keneged, the 3 Avos. Pesach is Keneged Avraham Avinu, because the Malachim came to Avraham on Pesach. Shavuos is Keneged Yitzchak, because the shofar of Matan Torah was the eye from the aisle of Yitzchak, and Sukkos is Keneged Yaakov, like the pasuk says, "V'ulamikneo asa Sukkos." And really, Rosh Chodesh is Keneged who the Yud Beis Shvatim. But when the men sinned at the Egel, the Yom Tov of Rosh Chodesh was taken away from the Yud Beis Shvatim and given it to the women. So what do we see from here? Who did not sin by the Egel?
The women.
The women. And in fact, Rabbi say, listen to this. Rabbi Kiva Eger writes that there's a custom not to wear gold on Yom Kippur. You ever hear such a thing? You don't wear gold on Yom Kippur. Why? En kateger nasa saneger. Says Rabbi Kiva Eger, but women could wear gold because then they never sinned with the Egel. So what's the problem with them wearing gold? Rabbi Kiva Eger says women, they want to wear gold, no problem. Says the Chassam Sofer in the Drashas.
Which one you got?
Number 21.
Okay.
Ach lerbelezer this really Ananei HaKavod haya kasha af hanoshim hayu ba'isei hanei shel Ananei HaKavod umay tamei paturais. What happened to people that the Ananei HaKavod didn't like? Let's say like Shevet Dan. The Ananei HaKavod expelled them. The Ananei HaKavod didn't disappear. It expelled them. So when the men sinned with the Egel, the Ananei HaKavod didn't leave. The men left. The men were expelled. The women never sinned with the Egel. So they were under the Ananei HaKavod the whole time. So what do you want to say? Women should sit in Sukkos to commemorate the return of the Anani HaKavod. Anani HaKavod never returned for them because it never was lost to them. They had it the whole time. So therefore women are parted from Sukkah because Sukkot is not a celebration of the existence of Anani HaKavod. It's a celebration of the return of the Anani HaKavod. The Anani HaKavod never returned for the women. Now we understand the pasuk in Nehemiah. The pasuk says Anani HaKavod never left. They never left. The men are the ones who left the Anani HaKavod, not the Anani HaKavod left Klal Yisrael. So when the Gra says the Anani HaKavod left, either that fits into what we're saying, and then what he means is that either it means that the Anani HaKavod just was expelled the men, or you could say a little bit differently. We're going to tweak it a little bit. Yeah, it did not. It was not removed from upon them. The Klal Yisrael was still there. The women, whoever else didn't sin with the Egel, whoever sinned was ejected. But or you could say a little bit differently. You could say that even if you say the women also lost the Anani HaKavod, but the return of the Anani HaKavod was not a demonstration of God being meratzah to the women. After all, he never lost his relationship with the women.
That's what I wanted to say.
That's what Reb Zelig wanted to say. But for the men, that's not what the Chassam Sofer says. But I'll tell you, the Chassam Sofer doesn't say that. The Chassam Sofer says what we said in the beginning. The drushes of the Kapos Tamarim says what Reb Zelig wanted to say, that it doesn't demonstrate a ritzoy to the women. So Rabbi say, now let us explain.
Why not? I mean,
in other words, when God removed the Anani HaKavod, it's not that Hashem was saying, I don't want to have anything to do with the women. I love the women. Just look, I can't be here for everyone, for some and not for others.
To show the ritzui.
Right. The
ritzui was not for the women; it was only for the men.
I'm going to tell you two things. Okay. Number one, we find in a medrash that the three Yomim Tovim represent three types of relationships: the relationship of a mother to a daughter, the relationship of a daughter to a mother, and the relationship of two sisters. Again, Pesach, we find take a look in the Meshech Chachma, number 22. In the middle of the piece, V'yazem atzanu medrash mufla b'chazos b'shir hashirim shal Reb Shimon bar Yochai Reb Elazar ben Yaakov efshir sheshamatem me'avicha mahu. What does it mean? Ba'atara she'itra lo imay amalei hein l'melech shehay lo bas yichida. A king had a daughter. He loved her, and he used to call her my daughter, and he used to call her my sister, and he still loved her so much that he called her my mother. So too, the Ribbanu Shalom, he calls Klal Yisrael his daughter. But not only that, he calls them his sister. And not only that, he calls them his mother. What does this mean? What in the world is this talking about? Says the Meshech Chachma. There are three periods in our history. Yitzias Mitzrayim. In terms of the relationship we had with God, that he took us out of Mitzrayim, did we do anything? Not really. Va'ad Eram ve'Arya, we were naked and bare. We didn't have any mitzvahs really. God acted be'isarusa de la'ila. He acted from above without anything on our part. That's like we were his daughter. In other words, we didn't do anything. He did everything for us. We just were the recipient. We did not actively create a relationship. Shavuos, what was the relationship like? Well, God did his part. He came down on Har Sinai. We did our part. We counted. We prepared ourselves. So we were like sisters. But Sukkos was the greatest relationship. Why? Because we were like his mother. Because Sukkos, we were the ones who initiated it. We were the ones with our full tshuva and with our building of the Mishkan. We created that Ritzoy, and that's why Sukkos we refer to as mother. Rabbi say, that's what God calls us. That's what God calls us. He calls us, in other words, to demonstrate we were the ones who created this relationship. Now, listen to this. So we've successfully.
If the Torah didn't say it.
Hashem acceded to it, but it was on our part. Now, Rabbi, listen to this. We've successfully explained the connection between Yom Kippur and Sukkos. Now we could explain the contradiction in the Matei Ephraim. Do you do your mitzvahs before Yom Kippur? You do them after Yom Kippur. You do mitzvahs before Yom Kippur. You know why? You want to tilt the scales. But it would not make any sense to build your sukkah before Yom Kippur. After all, first you need to gain kapara, you need to gain atonement, and after you gain your atonement, you move up, you're ready for the higher madrega of Ritzoy. After all, the sukkah corresponds to the Mishkan, right? Like we say, Rachmanu Yakum Lanu Sukkas David Hanoi Falas. When did we build the Mishkan? After Yom Kippur. So perhaps there's more of an inyan to build the sukkah specifically after Yom Kippur. In other words, we'll do our mitzvahs before Yom Kippur. But sukkah is closely linked to the kapara of Yom Kippur. So now Rabbi say, now I get it. Yom Kippur, what happened? Kapara. What happened on Sukkos? Ritzoy. Ritzoy for what? The Chet HaEgal. And that's the greatest simcha. But yet we find that as great as a day of simcha that Sukkos is, there's an even greater day of simcha. Shmini Atzeres. Why?
Because we felt the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu returned.
No, because Hashem told us. He says, I want one more day with you.
It's even a greater day of simcha. And what have we not done yet to atone for the Chet HaEgal? One thing. If you look by the Chet HaEgal, you find that Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu about the Chet HaEgal, and what does Moshe Rabbeinu do with the Luchais? Nothing. Nothing. God told him about the Chet HaEgal. What does Moshe do? No. Then the pasuk says, Moshe comes down. Vayaras ha'egal v'ha'mechaylos. He saw the dancing, and Moshe says, what? They sinned with the egel? Fine, they can always do tshuva. But now they're happy about it. They're dancing. When you dance about something, that means you're so bound to that thing. You're so tied. You're so connected. It's almost impossible to extricate yourself from that. So Moshe said, oh, they're dancing. Forget it. They're showing simcha. Forget it. So what does that show us? That maybe we've gained atonement for the Egel, and on Sukkos, we got Ritzoy, but there's one more thing we have to do. And that is dance with the Rebbeinu Shalom, Simchas Torah, to counteract the Egel. What was the Egel? Not the Yasiyas HaEgel. The Mecholos, Vayaras HaMecholos. They saw the dancing. So, Mida Keneged Mida. The final Makabeh Patish of the Yom Tov of Sukkos to gain Ritzoy for the Egel is we dance on Simchas Torah, we dance with the Rebbeinu Shalom, we dance with the Torah, we say to the Rebbeinu Shalom, now we've completely and wholeheartedly have removed ourselves from the Chet HaEgal, and that is why Shmini Atzeres is the greatest day of Simcha, because we're able to completely cleanse ourselves from the Chet HaEgal. B'chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. Have a wonderful Yom Tov. Mayadim l'simcha.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.